Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. This is Panos here from LearnWorlds. I hope everybody can hear me all right. You may introduce yourselves in the chat box of Zoom. Welcome, everyone, from wherever you are. Let us know where are you logging in from. Happy to get all your questions during the webinar. You can use the chat box of Zoom for that, the Q&A box for that. And in the chat, we can just have a casual discussion and you may introduce ourselves. Rest assured that we will send you a full recording of the webinar, so there's no reason to keep asking for that or waiting for that. We'll have a full recording that we'll send you by tomorrow, so you will have full access to that. So you can just use your time to pay attention to the scenarios we're going to cover here today and participate in the discussion and the Q&A. We also have with us Nikos, Christina, and Angeliki from our wonderful customer support team. They will be fielding questions as we go on. Probably we'll be able to cover dozens of your questions. And we'll be ready to start in just a moment. Just give a few more seconds for more people to sign in. We see lots and lots of new people coming in. Hi, Lavas. Hi, Mia. Hi, Linas. Hi, Heidi. Welcome, everyone. Hope everybody's safe and sound wherever you are. And cool, considering the circumstances in much of the world. So I think we can start. We have a very full-packed webinar for us today. Hi, everyone. This is Panos. Allow me to introduce you to our co-panelists today. We have George, my co-founder and chief product officer of the platform. We have Eliza, our learning designer, and Brett Hamilton, our customer success agent. Welcome, everyone. Super happy to have you here. This is one of the webinars that we are extremely interested and extremely proud to be presenting. This is one of the webinars we will be able to deep dive into some of the amazing functionality of the LearnWorlds platform and talk about personalized learning experiences in your online schools and how you can implement those within LearnWorlds. We have some amazing scenarios that are coming actually from users, from all the customer feedback that we are getting from you, and we were able to implement within the platform. I was amazed by the how involved and how engaging these scenarios are when we were going through that with our team here. I'm sure that even if you are a power user of LearnWorlds, you will find some new things today, and you will get some amazing ideas that you can put to good use into your online schools. But even if you are new to LearnWorlds and you're just experiencing this new platform, or just you are exploring what is possible, I think you will find amazing cases that you could use also in your online school, and ways that lots of ideas and lots of things that you can implement to really offer some unique mass personalization to your students. So let's get going with the webinar. A very brief introduction about LearnWorlds. LearnWorlds is an online course platform, a lightweight learning management system, and we're here on a mission to empower and future-proof knowledge-based businesses. Whatever your field, your subject, your industry may be, whether you are an individual training professional or where you're a business that has learning needs, whether these involve selling online courses, educating your customers, your employees, whatever your learning needs are, LearnWorlds is so flexible and so customizable that we can be your learning partner. We can be the tech that keeps evolving and expanding and covers all your ever-changing e-learning needs. So today, we are here to talk, along with George, Eliza, and Brett, we are here to talk about mass personalization of the learning experiences that you provide through the platform. It's understood that in whatever learning scenario you are exploring, there isn't one size that fits all. The game that we are playing is our effort to provide personalization, and usually personalization requires lots of data and much effort in order to be able to provide that. Everybody who ever taught in a classroom and is trying to provide some feedback to users understands how deeply involved you have to be, how you can use data and experience and the insights, and what effort is required in order to provide even the significant level of adaptation to your students. What we're trying here to do is give you the tools, the framework and the insights so that you can offer mass personalization in an automated way, in a way that can be extremely efficient and effective to use, even in a very large scale scenario where you have from tens to dozens to hundreds to thousands of users within your skill. So the scenarios that we will show you today are actually created by us based on user feedback and concrete usage of the platform in many different industries by experts and practitioners who are excelling in online learning. And we will show you how you can adapt the individual experiences that each learner can get within your platform in order to make your training more effective and more efficient, to facilitate some very practical learning opportunities, to seek flexibility and promote specific skills, even to tailor the learning to each particular learner wherever they are, to maximize the learning outcomes and to actually speak to their needs. So what we will be seeing today are some very elaborate, but also very understandable and very practical scenarios that help us adapt the learning experiences and provide to who is seeing what and when. Effectively, we will be using many of the variables of the learning platform: the design, the timing, the users, the courses, the interaction and the sequencing of these things to provide a massive mass customization and mass personalization to each one of those users. So let's George now talk about the 4 layers of personalization that we're going to explore here today with our scenarios.
Thanks, Panos. I think as LearnWorld, we are the only platform in our market that we invest so much in personalization, and that's why we have created 4 pillars of personalizations for which we develop our product. We think that both the learning value and the marketing value of personalization is huge. You know, there is a ton of research about why personalized learning paths can improve efficiency and also the happiness and the satisfaction of your learners. So at the end, which is the goal of a school? It's to make learners learn more efficiently and be more happy. So the 4 layers that we are going to present to you today are the following. First of all, we are going to talk about tailored navigational paths. So someone sign ups for your school, sign ups a qualification form, and you know that he has some specific interests. So should you show him the exact same page that with someone else that have some different interests? In LearnWorld, we answer no. We want to give you the flexibility to select different navigational paths based on interests and preferences. The second layer is about creating custom learning paths, about selecting, let's say, sequences of courses that someone should follow. The third layer is about the learning content. It's about micro adaptations. So you do know, for example, that some learners are visual learners. So why don't you show to them more images, more visual material? And you maybe also know that they are interested more in a specific domain. So why don't you show only to them specific information which may be overloading for the other users? And the third layer is about messaging, is how you can create personalized messages based on user behavior, based on user answers, essentially based on user preferences and knowledge. So we are going to develop and present to you these 4 layers of personalization scenarios. But before that, we have to show you the features that are going to be used for these scenarios. So Elisa, can you please provide us with a quick walkthrough of these specific features?
You're on mute.
Sorry,
Elisa?
I'm muted. Yes, thank you. So these are some of the main features that you're going to be seeing in today's presentations and that are going to help you to further personalize the learning experience. So if I can share my screen, Panos?
First. Of course.
So if you guys give me a second to do just that. Okay, so the first thing you're seeing right here is the qualification form. And what is the qualification form? So it's essentially a form that is presented to the user once and after the sign up, and it's just happens for the first time. So it's a unique opportunity for school admins to learn more about the users and then make adaptations to the courses, to the navigation options, and to the content that they want to show. The qualification forms is simple, it's powerful, and it's ideal for you to identify the user's intentions, preferences, knowledge, and you can use all of this data to customize the learning path. So from here, all you need to do is just simply click on edit questions, and you can go over to the builder and you can select exactly what qualification questions you need.
And Elisa, I think we have a very powerful form builder, so as you can build whatever form you want, so as to get the info you want from the user and understand his preferences and interests. So it's a very powerful tool, and it is usually optional. So you are not making a prerequisite someone to submit this form. So it makes that, let's say, more flexible for the users and the learners.
Correct, that is correct. Right, so the next powerful tool is custom sign-up forms. Custom sign-up fields, excuse me, not forms. So this is essentially information fields that you can add into the sign-up process and that you want users to complete when they're doing the sign-up process. So besides their email and the username, you can add any custom field that you wish. They can also be used to identify, again, user preferences or characteristics. So it's quite similar to the qualification in terms of the information that you can get. Now, you should not add a lot of these into the sign-up form just so that you don't make it too busy. Again, balance is key in everything. And custom fields and qualification questions can also be used at the same time as well. So just add them from here. You can select exactly what information you wish to ask during the sign-up process. So the next tool is multiple after login pages. So we mentioned that, and what a better way to personalize the user experience than showing a specific page according to either a tag or a preference. So with the multiple after login pages, you can set up different audiences and show different segments, different pages right after they sign up into the school. So for instance, if you have a custom sign-up field, like we saw just now, that perhaps users revealed intention or specific goals, or maybe a certain amount of knowledge that they have somewhere, then you can create a qualification form. You can get all of that information and show a specific after login page according to all of these preferences. Now, besides those,
Sorry, Lisa, this is something that we are also using in our school. So we are using that in the Coach Master School. We are using at LearnWorlds Academy School. It's a powerful feature that you cannot find in the market. That's also important to underline.
Yes, of course. Now, besides using the qualification forms and all of that, of course, you can also use the tags. You're going to see that heavily into the presentation in order to determine what after login page a user is going to be directed after, right after the tag. So that was this tool. You can determine that from here. Next up, again, quite related, is the tag manager. So what are tags, right? The tags are essentially keywords that can be attributed. They can be assigned to a user either automatically or even manually based on their actions or by the admin. So tags are very common in CRMs in general, and they're very, very powerful in terms of managing users and how you can use them. Tags are going to be, like I said, extremely used today. And in LearnWorlds, we are offering the tag manager that you can see in front of you so that you can easily manage all the tags. You can add new ones, you can merge tags, and you can even see the tags usage across the platform. So that's what you can do from here. Next up, extremely powerful as well, is automations. So what are these? Automations are essentially workflows that are triggered based on users' behavior. So when a trigger is fired, then you can specify exactly which action you wish the platform to perform. For example, if a user, let's say, enrolls into a course, then you can assign them with a specific tag. Or the opposite, if a user is assigned with a specific tag, then you can enroll them to a specific course. So automations are extremely powerful, and we'll see more of these in a little bit during the presentation. Next up, we have the visibility option. You'll see that in both the site builder and the ebook builder. So what is this? So this is, again, another powerful feature that enables users to display, enables you to display or not widgets or sections of a specific page to different audiences. For example, visibility enables you to show a button, maybe, to specific users that are tagged. You can see all of that from here. Sorry, let me just minimize screens over here. Right, and now, like I said, besides doing it in the site builder, you can also find visibility options into the ebook builder as well over here on the actions tab. And if someone, for instance, gets a tag, like I said, then you can show or hide specific sections for both the ebook and the site builder. Then you can select whether a section or a title or an image, or whatever you select from the ebook over there, if it will be shown based on a tag or no. You can also create adaptive ebooks based on those tags. Let's move over to the next tool, which is sign up approval. So this is a feature that enables users to enables admins to select whether someone can sign up by themselves into your school, or if they need to be accepted by the school admin in order to get access into your courses, into your academy. So when we're activating the sign up approval that you see over here, that means that someone needs to send a request, and that has to be approved by the admin. The use of the sign up approval feature is usually being combined with a qualification survey that you can see over there. So one can request access for the school, but also complete a form in which they will share some preferences or some personal details. Next up, we have our assessment builder. This is the last feature that you're going to be seeing over here. Now, Learnworlds provides probably the most powerful assessment editor in the market, with plenty of questions that you can add and customize. The assessment builder also enables you to tag users based on their answers, and that you can see over here as well. So whether or not this question is correct or false, you can assign a specific tag to that user and then use it later on to customize their experience. So these are pretty much the tools. We'll be seeing those in more details in the next slides.
Great. Let me go back to sharing my my presentation. Already in the chat, we see some amazing cases being presented, and ideas thrown around. Just wait, people. These are the cases that we will show, that we will start exploring in detail right away.
Hi, everyone.
So, welcome, Brett.
All right, Brett here. So first of all, George, panelists, thanks for bringing me into the presentation to talk about this stuff, because this is really a lot of the things that I see with my customers on a regular basis. And I'm really kind of happy to talk to you guys about setting up some nice tailored site navigational paths for your school. So we're going to just kind of run through a couple different scenarios using a lot of the different pieces that we just saw Eliza go through, right? So things like the multiple after login pages, site navigation, and tags and user groups. Really, these are all really nice, powerful pieces, but when they're added together and they're used in unison, that's where the real power kind of comes into play when it comes to customizing, certain navigational paths for your school. So if we were to take a look at this specific example, many of us kind of, a lot of our online schools today have more than just kind of one different user within the particular school, right? You might have 3 different segments of users learning different pieces of learning throughout the platform. And we don't want to always just offer the same pages for those particular users. So in this example, we're looking at a development school that work with back, front end, and full stack developers. So that's 3 different segments that this particular school is catering to. So instead of setting up a single after login page for all of these users, we're going to look at an example that helps us understand how we can actually set up different login pages based off of a registration process that we offer at the beginning. So panelists, if you want to just jump to the next slide here. So Eliza had mentioned custom registration fields. So one of the options you have within the site builder is the ability to create a nice custom registration field when you first get started. And there are 2 options within that particular ability for either a drop down or a checkbox. Now you can utilize these really in any fashion that you want, but you'll notice, you know, in this particular example, we have our front end, we have our back end, and we have our full stack. But the power really comes into play when you start utilizing this along with tags. And if you see down at the very bottom here, there is a little box here that says check if you want to add this input as a tag on the user's profile. So in this example, if a user decides that they are a front-end developer and they click that, they're actually going to be tagged with front end. Panos, you can go to the next slide. Where that comes into play is that next piece, that after login page. So based off of that registration for that user, I can actually use the different after login pages to drop that user on a specific page when they log in. So I have 3 different user types that I might want to mix up messaging. I might want to show different courses. And by utilizing this, I have that ability. Panos? So you see the very end, the end scenario here is we actually have 3 separate pages that cater to each of those user groups. We have different messaging on there. We offer different courses. So you can actually utilize those 3 segments within your school. You can target them based on their wants, their needs, their messaging, all based off of that initial registration.
So if I may comment, Brett, here, with just the custom field and the very powerful mechanism of the tags, we combined an online course platform with a CRM effectively. And you don't just have one school, you have 3 school experiences. You can just run your entire business with just this customization. And not only that, everybody sees just what they are supposed to see at the right time when they are in that particular segment, or as they move even through the different segments. So this is what the smart combination of custom field tags and all these features that we talk about here today can create for you.
So the next scenario is actually a really interesting one as well, because in our first scenario, we looked at based off of the user's input, we decided what pages they should land on, right? So where this differs a little bit is we are actually going to be taking the user's buying patterns and utilizing that to actually create a promotion that will target that user when a new course comes out in that same area that they're interested in. So buying patterns are one of probably the most important things to watch in your users, because it really indicates what they are interested in. I could always select, hey, I'm interested in certain, back end or front end development. But if you're actually taking a look at my purchasing, you can actually start to kind of understand, okay, well, this is the areas that this guy is interested in learning about. So I'm going to offer some promotions there. So in this particular example, we're going to look at that development school. A user is going to go ahead and actually make a purchase. So the first thing we need to do is actually use the power of automation. So again, we're using all these different pieces together. One of the automations that is actually available to you is the ability to enroll when a user enrolls in a specific course, to actually then add a tag. So in this case, user enrolls in one of our framework courses, we add the tag framework. And then we end up creating a promotion. So we are going to create a promotion now for our next framework course. We're going to give them 50% off, right? On the next slide, you're going to see, now that we've got that promotion created, I'm actually going to use visibility. Okay, so visibility, for all of those that have had a chance to use this in their school, visibility is pretty much available on almost every element within your page builder. Whether it's text or a section or a widget, you can control visibility by going to that actions tab there and actually selecting whether that particular element is visible to a specific user based on the tag. So within that after login page, we might even have a section that appears to users that just made a purchase of that framework course, maybe offering advanced framework. So now we can actually offer that promotion on that page for that specific user based off of what they purchased. And I'm sure many of you can probably look at this and see how powerful this is and think of many different ideas on how to do this as well. But this is a really good example of how you can leverage your users' buying power.
It's a great example, Brett. And again, it's amazing that you set it up once and it works in eternity. So as new users come in, as they enroll, as they buy courses, you have your evergreen offers that show up in a timely manner, only for the right people, only for the people who have been tagged for one particular occasion. So that's how you can create actually funnels combined within your online course experience, either while people purchase or they study, by controlling all these visibility features with these tags.
Yeah, and the great thing is, Panos, you don't just need to have one. You can have multiple offers based off of different purchases, all on the same page, and they're really just going to be seen by the users that are interested in that or have made that purchase in that particular area.
And all of that without overloading people with too many messages. So just the right messages to the right people. That's, I think,
want to have too many promotions, right?
Yeah.
And in the third scenario here, we're going to be actually taking a kind of a different approach here. So I work with a lot of different schools. Some are public, but some of them are a little bit more closed off. They want to control, the ability for users who want to register or can and can't register for the school. So actually what we're looking at here is how you can actually create an exclusive learning community within your school itself. And in this example, you might be working with an academy that, does some type of peer-to-peer feedback, and they want to ensure that the users that are, joining their school are the right kind of user for that environment. They don't want to bring somebody in there that could be negative and just ruin the learning environment. So what we're going to be looking at here is how we can actually use the sign-up approval process and how we can use the qualification form together to actually decide, who can and cannot register for our school. So the first thing, obviously, we would need to do is go into our sign-up approval, which you'll find under user management, and we can go ahead and configure that. So here you're actually able to change the way that certain pages, such as the accept or the rejected page, look. You can turn on this approval process within your school, and you also have the ability to loop in the qualification form here. So the qualification form is no longer shown when the user first logs into your school, but as they register. So if I go to register, I now am asked certain questions from your qualification form so that you can further understand who I am as a person before you decide whether or not I can actually access the school. And you'll see in this next slide, you actually have the ability, as users are registering for your school, to view those users, to view their answers within that qualification form and approve or reject them based off of the information they've provided for you. So you have the ability, like I mentioned, to kind of customize the messaging that is available for when a user first registers, letting you know, okay, hey, you've registered, but we're going to review your qualification form, and we'll get back to you whether you've been accepted or not. And you have the ability to customize this nice little rejection page as well, letting a user know that, you might not be quite the right fit for our school. So, we apologize, but unfortunately your application has been rejected. In scenario 4, we're going to be taking a look at really visibility. That is the main piece of this, right? So we want to make sure that we can actually adapt our course pages to reflect our learners' life cycle. So what do I mean by that? Well, all of us have users in our school that are starters, that are intermediate, that are, veteran users of a specific, learning topic. And so what we want to do in this particular example is actually create a nice welcoming environment for users that might join. I'm sorry, I messed up a little bit there. So this is really more for users that are joining a course page. There are users that are enrolled versus users that are not enrolled, right? So you might have different offerings that you potentially want to offer them. You might have a description of the course or ability to access the course, whereas users that aren't enrolled, you might have more marketing information or promotional offers. Panos, if you want to move to the next page here.
So I think, Brett, what we are talking about is that we have one product. We have a product description page, a course description page. And the issue is, how can I use this product description page for both unenrolled users, so I have to promote that course, and also enrolled users? And usually this is a very difficult problem because you have to create 2 pages for these 2 different versions of intentions from the admin. But you can show how you can manage to solve that problem in LearnWolves.
Yeah, instead of having 2 pages based off whether somebody is enrolled or unenrolled, right? You can actually do this all with visibility on the same page. So if you do have a course page, you will notice that in visibility, there are a couple different options within the course page. We have one for unenrolled users and we have one for enrolled users. So what I have seen many of my customers do is if you do have a user that is unenrolled, you might want to offer a promotion like we see here on the page for me to enroll in the school or that course. There's no reason you would want to offer me that promotion if I'm already enrolled in the course. It would just be, hammering me with, and it might even be a promotion that I didn't get. I might get angry that I got, I got passed over for a great promotion. So you want to have pages like this that will show, promotion for unenrolled users. But if you see in the next example here that we have Panos, or even additional information for users that are enrolled. You might not want to show all the different activities within a course to users that aren't enrolled in your school. And I know many of us, the customers I work with, have these on their pages. And this is one of the main things I always recommend. This particular piece of the course has got a lot of information in it. It allows people to drill into what the course is about. And if you're really kind of keeping, users that aren't enrolled, kind of away from that information, this is one way to do that using visibility and basically saying, if you're enrolled, this is the information that you'll receive. And then lastly, in the scenario 5, this is where I kind of jumped the gun a little bit. So this is actually the scenario we'll be looking at when we have different levels of users within our school, right? So sometimes we might be a B2B company. We might be working with managers as well as just the bottom level employees. And we want to ensure that we are actually providing, the correct information and correct pages to users based on their level of competency, right? So if we have starters or intermediate or advanced, we want to ensure that we're kind of providing that. There's even a way as a user progresses through your school, right? Because you start as a starter, but you don't stay a starter. You learn, you understand, you get more and more advanced. You might become a manager. You might become the CEO. And as you kind of advance to that, we want to make sure that we're catering to that and we're changing the pages and things of that are available to those users based off of their experience level. So you can see we'll start by kind of going to the sign up process. So Panos, if you want to show the next slide here. It might just be something as simple as the registration. Hey, are you a manager? How competent are you in the subject, right? So you can offer kind of a level of competency. I'm 1 through 2, or I'm 3. I feel like I'm more than 7. And so you can kind of have this selection to start with. Before the user actually gets into the information. And again, this could be part of that custom registration field. Now it comes to the after login page, right? The page that we can offer the courses and the information that we want to offer based off of a tag. So when they make a selection, we tag them, we land on the after login page. And as you can see here, we've actually set up different after login pages, not based off of the information they want to hear about, but based off of their experience level. So we have an after login page for years 1 through 3, through 3 through 6, and then 7 and above. Now, as the users progress, we can use automation. So what we know when a certain course is passed, the user is now crossed over from that starter level to intermediate, right? So in this case, we use the automation when a certificate gets awarded for this leadership course. We want to move them into the next level and we want to take them out of the beginner section. So we can actually remove the tag of 1 or the beginner tag, and we can now add the tag of advanced. So this allows us now to change that after login page, to change the courses that they see when they log in, and to change the messaging that we're providing them.
So it's amazing that even at the level of the course, once you set this up, this can become an entire admission engine. You control all the learning paths of the courses. This is something that in the past users used to do manually. They had to move people, sign up, enroll, unenroll. Now, once you set it up, you can have everything. As you have seen with all these 5 scenarios from Brett, you can control what people see in the initial landing pages or when they end up, and even the specific learning units within the courses, but even entire courses themselves, like the sequencing of entire courses. So the level of customizations is immense. And it's very difficult for us to it was difficult to distill these examples into simple scenarios, because Brett every day sees much more complex scenarios by many users who are customizing things at all these levels. On the other end, you don't have to go at that level immediately. You can start playing with these tools, and once you understand the power of tags, customization, and the customizations of the different tools, then you will start generating ideas very, very fast on how you can automate your own business and save time and money for your business. So let's go to the next layer.
Yes. So the next layer is how to educate with custom learning journeys. So how can you add maybe prerequisite courses? Now, yes, over here. So a lot of times we need custom learning paths, like I mentioned. So this means that we want someone to follow a very specific path of courses, which is being revealed gradually while the user completes the one they're on and then moves over to the next one. So let's take a look and see how we can do that with these tools. So we're going to be using the automations tools over here. So if we go over to the next tab, you'll see our suggestion over here. So let's say that you have a program with 3 courses that you want them to take. What we suggest is that you create the first course as a paid course and then keep the other 2 as private. Now, price the first course as the whole program. And now if we can move over to the next tab so that you can see the automation. So you'll see 2 different versions. So first off, you can use the trigger when the user completes the course. And of course, in the first option, you're going to add the first paid course, right? And then the action will be that you're going to enroll them automatically to the next course, the one that's coming up right after that. And once this is done, you can also add a second automation that when this course is now completed, then they can move over to the last course. So this allows you to make the navigation sequential. They cannot see the whole path before they actually complete the course they're on. So this is how this would work. Yes, let's go over to the next scenario. So over here, sorry, just give me a second. Now over here, when we're talking about internal training, because this is what this is about in case you wish to train your employees. Now, typically, when you want to train your employees, we're talking about learners that have to complete a specific course, right? A course that has been pre-decided by management or their employer, right? So we do not really have an open exploration academy here, but we have an academy where the managers have decided which courses each employee should follow. So when users signs up to the academy, they will have been automatically enrolled into the right courses. So over here, we're going to use the automation tools and the tagging options. So if we can go over to the next tab. So over here in this slide, you see that we are bulkily going to enroll these users, and we're also going to add the tag when the user is enrolled. And then based on that tag, you can have the automation and you can select to enroll users to a specific course. So if it's an HR, then you enroll them into an HR course, so whatever that may be. So we're adding them, bulkily enrolling them, we're tagging them based on their department or their interest, and then we're creating the automation to enroll them to the specific course that has been decided. The next scenario 8, encourage the continuous learning process. So now we have mentioned performance results. That identification of learners' knowledge level is one of the biggest parameters for personalization. So you're inside the course, you're completing an assessment activity, and you have answered maybe a couple of questions wrongly, right? So perhaps you fail the assessments. So this is an important trigger for helping the specific user by sending them customized email notification or maybe more resources to go through. So let's take a look at how we can do that in the next tab. As you can see, we're going to be using automations again. So over here, you can see that you can specify when an assessment is submitted and more specifically when it is failed. So when that user has failed the assessment, then you can send a very, very personalized email with more resources, just to encourage them to perhaps try again and go through some more material. If we can go over to the next scenario.
And just to add, Elisa, to what you just said, that usually in the past, this would require a very, very elaborate setup and use third-party tools like an email system, like an email marketing system, Zapier, or all sorts of jump through different hoops to create something like that. Now, just very easily, within Learnwalls, you can use the built-in functionality and the timing and just send a very customized email to every one of your students again. And this is an evergreen email whenever they fail in one of their assessments.
Yes. So now this next scenario is the exact opposite of the previous one. So you do know again that someone this time succeeded in assessment or an exam instead of failed. And perhaps, again, this isn't a low learning value. This is a significant learning event, which you can exploit and you can help that user to celebrate hard work or just challenge them to move on to the next steps. So again, over here, we can make use of automations. If we can go over to the next tab, so you can see, but this time, instead of failing the assessment, we set it to assessment pass, and you can add some encouraging messages into your email, or again, perhaps suggest new material to go through if they've just succeeded to this one. So very, very useful for both cases.
Share a coupon as well, or anything else, and send them all over to their next adventure within your school.
Yes, that would be a great idea as well.
I think it's important to underline now that you have to sum up all these scenarios and understand the complexity that you can build inside your school and the personalization paths that you can create. It's not usually we can handle right now just one, because already one is quite complicated. But you have to think that while you're working with these personalization scenarios, you can build block by block more paths, more options for the users that are customized for themselves. It's not an easy process. It's not self-evident that you will find all these scenarios. So we do understand that we are going to help you with this webinar, with the material that we are going to share, that this is quite demanding also for you. But try also to combine all these scenarios and do not evaluate them per se. So let's go on to the third layer, Brett, about how you can customize the learning block, the small learning blocks based on user preferences, goals, and knowledge.
Yeah, and this actually utilizes one of my favorite new features on the platform, and that's the new ebook builder. The great thing about it is it works just like the page builder. So a lot of the features and the functionality that you found within that page builder are now available directly within the ebook builder, which is within the course itself. So it just opens up a whole lot of opportunities for customization and creating nice customized paths for users. So in this first scenario, we're going to take a look at how we can actually adapt to a learner's needs based off of some answers that we received within a qualification form. So if you want to ensure that your learners can kind of you speak, your material speaks to your audience, and you keep your learners engaged, and you want to keep people from dropping out of the course, this is a really nice way to utilize that ebook, to utilize visibility, utilize tags in that qualification question. So panelists, if you want to jump to the next slide here. So this is just an example again of a qualification form that we've set up, and you'll see we have two options here at the top here: gluten-free and all good, right? And this could be part of a cooking class that we have put together. And you'll see over on the right, we've actually tagged the user based off of their responses. So this particular user would be interested in gluten-free material. So if you move over to the next slide, you can actually see this is an ebook. So this is in our course. This is material that we've put together in our course. And because that user has mentioned that they are interested in gluten-free cooking, you'll see that we've actually got a section that will appear within that course material based off of that user's preference in that qualification form. So I can actually customize not the pages, not the, where they're landing and everything like that, but the actual learning content based off of tags, based off of a qualification form. And I can customize that and make that material relevant to my users. In the next scenario, we're actually going to look at how we can adapt to different learning styles. No student is a cookie cutter, right? Not every student is the same. Some learn through auditory, some learn through visual, some learn through, repetitive actions. So one of the things we can actually ask our users when they sign up is, how do you learn? Are you auditory? Are you visual? And so we can utilize that again within our ebooks to build and cater towards their particular learning needs. Panos, if you want to jump to the next slide here, again, we're going to use the qualification form, same method, based off of their answer about how they actually, what their learning style is, we're going to tag them. So in this case, I might tag someone with, I'm an auditory learner, or I like learning through text, or I like learning through visual. And once that tag is added, brings us to the next step here. You'll see that we can actually create, we have 2 slides here. So we can actually create sections within that ebook, right? One could be catered towards the auditory learning style. It covers the same subject. It just, when that user logs into that particular activity within that course, it's going to be catered to my learning style. And you can see in the next slide here, we actually have one that's catered more towards a visual learning style. These are all in the same ebook, but based off of my response at the beginning, I'm only going to see one of these options. So it really helps me understand the material. It helps me as a student get into the material and understand what's going on just based off of using tags and a simple question at the beginning.
We have to underline the literature, the research literature that it is being dedicating to adaptive ebook builders and the positive effects that it has to learning. An important thing is that it's easy for us in LearnWorlds, and it's powerful in terms of its results. So I think a LearnWorlds user should consider using this scenario several times in his courses.
Yeah, and you'll see in the next scenario, George, we're actually looking at how we can utilize a lot of these different pieces to kind of work on knowledge gaps. Sometimes you're going to have that user, that student that is kind of fallen behind on a specific subject. And for those of you who have had the chance to use the assessment builder, you've probably noticed that it works very similar to what we've done with forms. So based off of a student's answer within an assessment, we can actually cause some type of action based off of an answer. So maybe we have the assessment builder up, and I think Panos, we have a kind of an option or an image of this here. Yeah. So you can see we have the assessment builder here, and we have the 4 different answers. One of them obviously being the wrong answer, right? And that is all of the above. So based off of that answer, again, we can add a tag from that particular student. But instead of doing something within the ebook this time, we're actually going to set up an automation. So when that tag is added to a user, we're going to send an email to that user saying, hey, listen, we understand, you got this question wrong on this particular learning material. Wouldn't it be great if we could set up a one-to-one session? Or wouldn't it be great if we could check out this particular material on this particular learning material here? Like you could send them to another course, you could send them to something online to learn a little bit more about that subject, right? So there's actually an automatic response, not just a, hey, you got it wrong, and here's some feedback. It's an automatic response based off of a wrong answer that you can set up using automations outside of the school. We can get them in their email, right? We can send them a push notification. There's many different automations that we can set up based off of this. So it's a really nice way to kind of help people get caught up to the material. In this next scenario, we're going to take a look at how we can actually offer bonus material based off of, a user enrolling in a course. So sometimes, you have users that are enrolling in a specific course, and you might have another course that you're offering for free in that same area. And you might just want to say, hey, I saw that you enrolled in this. Let's go ahead and see if you're interested in this free webinar or this free course that I'm also offering, right? A lot of us have those live activities. We have free webinars. It would be great if a user signs up for a specific subject and then you send them an email or just a welcoming them, a notification, welcome them to that webinar that you're also hosting to keep them involved. And you'll see in this next example here, we have set up an automation so that when a user does make a purchase for a particular course, they are tagged with Whisk and Learn. In this case, again, this is kind of a chefing school. And then we might have either a notification, or we might have an area within an ebook or an area within the web page that says, hey, we saw that you were interested in our Whisk and Learn class. Are you interested in some more, nice, yummy recipes, right? So you can click here for our original pizza course, or you can click here for our shrimp penne. So there's different options that you can kind of offer based off of just a single purchasing decision, right? I've even seen some schools, and I know it's kind of off topic, but again, just kind of pulling things into all these different things that you can offer. I've seen some schools offer a form after a user signed up, and that form allows a user to pick an optional course, right? Based off of the form that they're selecting, they're actually enrolled into another course based off of that selection with a tag. So they purchase one course and they get a free bonus course that they get to select. So there's really some really cool stuff you can do with all this. And then this next scenario here that we have is kind of ingesting the learning content based off of a self-reflection. So if you guys have had a chance to dive into our assessment builder or dive into our our exams or our self-assessments, you probably have noticed that there is a self-reflection area that you can set up. And you can set something up where you might have, hey, how confident are you in this material, right? That could be a really powerful question to ask your users during a self-reflection. And we can actually utilize that to control, what content might be available to that user as well within the ebook. You can see in this next area here, again, we have an example. User is in their exam. They say, how confident are you in that? And they'll fill something out, whether it's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 stars, there are 5 hearts. And based off of that, again, we can add a tag. Now, you'll see in the next slide here, again, tag is added. We set up an automation and we say, hey, listen, when this tag is added, I want to add another tag, and it's called, skip, this particular unit. Now, in the next ebook, after this self-assessment, we could have a unit that might be too difficult for that particular user based off of their response. So instead of actually adding material based off of a tag, we're removing material based off of a tag. So based off of their confidence level, we're able to adjust the learning material in the next activity almost instantaneously.
I think, Brendan, we have again to underline that research shows that self-reflection of your knowledge, how you evaluate your knowledge, is strongly correlated with the real knowledge that you have. So you can skip complicated assessment questionnaires, ask the learner, what do you think that you know right now? And then adjust the content based on their assessment so as to make it more easy, more fluid to continue the course.
And it keeps people enrolled in your course, right? Because if somebody feels intimidated with the learning material, they might turn into a dropout. So if you're able to adjust that learning material based off of their confidence level, it could be a really powerful thing.
And also if the student perceives that he is in an interaction with the course, that the course understands what he is doing and he's adjusting to him, then it's a huge benefit for the learner.
So effectively, no two users have the same experience. They experience a different course, and it's a course that has been adapted and orchestrated by you, the school owner, who is managing and micromanaging all these different interactions. And you don't do it continuously. You set it up once, you set up these rules, and all these things run for all the tens or dozens or hundreds of users who will enroll into your school. So that's the power of mass customization and adaptation, even at the learning level. Here we're talking about the actual learning material that the students interact with. So let's go to the next level then, Elisa.
Yes, so the next and final level is about adapting your message to your learners. Now, we saw some of this in some previous examples, but let's dive a little bit deeper. So let's go over to the next slide. Anos, if you can go over to the next slide. There you go. Okay, so right here we have an example where we have an academy where it has courses for parents or new parents. So this is a sensitive subject. So perhaps you just want to reach out to new users that have enrolled and, just to welcome them, just to let them know that you're there in case they need any help. That's really going to help the user to feel heard and feel just more friendly towards the platform and you. So let's see how we can do that. So based on their enrollment, the first thing that we want to do is turn off the general notification emails that we send out, that you can send out upon course enrollment. If you go over to the next slide, you'll see that right here is where we set out the automation. So based on what course the user enrolled, right here, we got a new parents course. Then you get sent a specific email. So this is the email. Again, a great chance for you to send this email specifically to users enrolled into this course. Right here, it's new parents. So maybe you want to touch upon parenthood and all the new things they're going to experience and talk a bit more about all the help that you can provide in that topic. Let's go over to the next scenario. So right here, you can suggest next steps after a course completion. So somebody is actually diligent, they like your academy, they go through it, and they complete courses. So this is your time to jump in and just suggest either new course, new material, and things of this nature. So we're going to make use of automations, the qualification form, and tags. So let's go ahead into the next tab. And right here, we got the qualification form that we saw earlier. So it has a question, are you a first-time parent? And now you can see that, again, according to the answer from the qualification form, they get a specific tag. Let's go over to the next slide. Again, it is crucial that we turn off the general notification that the Academy also provides when you're completing a course, just so that you can customize that. So as soon as that is done, then we go over to the automations and we set it up. So when the user is enrolled to this course, new parents, we want to send out this email. Sorry, when the user completes this, I added this wrong, it's okay. So when the user completes this, then you want to send out this email only if this condition is very important, only if they have a specific tag based on the qualification that we saw earlier. Let's move over to...
Sorry, Elisa, sorry for interrupting. I think what you are showing here is the fact that you just have the possibility to create a second level of splitting the emails, the course enrollment emails. So in your first scenario, you've just created a custom email for enrollments in each course, different email for each course. And in the second scenario, you said that you can differentiate the email when enrolling into a course based on the segment. So if I have 3 segments in my school, and these 3 segments, someone from these segments enrolls into a course, I can set 3 different course enrollment emails. And this is, let's say, the level of detail of customizations that you can inject in your school.
That is correct. And these are great scenarios for when users are actually attending the courses and the academy. Now, let's move over to the next and last scenario and see what happens when people are actually not that motivated and maybe they're slagging on their education or they're being inactive. So what are some options you have to kind of like give them a nudge and motivate them to carry on and go ahead with their education? Let's move over to the next tab, and you'll see that this is actually coming very, very soon. So right here, you'll see that in the automations part, we have a trigger regarding inactivity. So based on if a user has been inactive in the school for the last X days or in a course, then you can set out specific actions, whether that would be perhaps send them an email, let them know that you're there in case they need any help. Besides creating the automation from scratch, you'll also find some ready-made automations on the matter as well. And of course, besides the automations, if you're also making use of our mobile app, you can even do this via push notifications instead of doing it from the automations.
Imagine this combination that you have customized messages on your mobile. So I think this is the most powerful marketing approach that you can ever develop.
Yes, definitely. And especially with mobiles, we're on our phones almost 24/7, if I may say. So it's definitely you're definitely going to see it, the push notification. All right, I think that's it from me.
So I think we have I understand that these scenarios can be overwhelming, and I've seen many people who have asked for step-by-step instructions, and this is why we made sure to structure this presentation also with step-by-step instructions. So you will also get a copy of these presentations, and you can start experimenting with all this. Like all this, the functionality is already available in your school, except the last step that we mentioned. So you can start even with simple scenarios. You can see what have been the most demanding tasks of your job, what have been the tasks that you have been doing frequently and more frequently, and here you can start working on these 4 layers of customizations. And here we are talking about customization at the power of 4, because you can control who sees what and where, both at the marketing level, who sees things before pre-sales, before they purchase something, what is the sequencing of the different course, but even you can go very specific at the specific learning units that they're able to see, and even send them specialized messages based on the very individual and very unique learning experience that they had with their platform. And obviously the other thing is that you set up all these automations once, and they can run in an evergreen mode for thousands upon thousands of users 24/7 as people roll into your school.
And Pano, I think we have to say here that we understand that this domain has complexity. And that's why what you've seen in this webinar is going to be repackaged in the Academy as a course, in our blog as articles. It will become a daily webinar, and also it will be uploaded to the Course Masters Academy. So we are going to invest in educating you how to exploit all these different opportunities. And this is our mission here. We want you to empower you to build personalized academies that are not existent right now out there.
And it's important that we keep learning along with you. Most of the features that you have seen here have been co-created with users who had specific demands. We're also obviously adding our own unique creativity, and we try to combine all the business models that we understand and all the smart and super intelligent ways that people are using the LearnWorks platform. We have already seen today in the chat some amazing ideas, and I'm sure that in the next few weeks and months we will keep learning and adding just different ways and features, and also sharing back with you all these examples. This is something that is extremely powerful. It also has a learning curve. You can just start with some very smart minor automations that can help you some time, in some cases save some time, and do some micro customizations. And very soon, with our help, with more examples and with more use cases, you will be able to run a very elaborate academy at a fraction of the cost, at a fraction of the effort, and create unique learning experiences that you could only emulate, you could only do in the physical world by having a teacher or a marketer or both standing next to you. And this is the level of customization and attention and care that you can provide to your users, to your learners, and to your customers today with LearnWorks. We don't have time for Q&A. I've seen that we have already in our chat, our amazing team here has answered more than 70 questions, and I'm sure there are many more coming in the chat. So no time for Q&A. I know that has been a very demanding webinar for everybody involved, but I would like to give you here to share to those people who are willing to make the try, start with LearnWorks and start experiencing the powerful customizations and all the other features that we have. Here's a limited time offer, bonus 25 coupon, 15% off for the next 6 months. Unfortunately, with this presentation, we don't have the level of customization of LearnWorks, so I cannot hide the coupon from existing customers, but this only applies to new customers. If you're just experiencing LearnWorks, if you just started a trial, you can just head on to our website. You can start a free trial, no credit cards required, no strings attached. It's a 30-day fully functional trial. So you can use these customizations today. We will share the presentation as soon as possible. So play around, discover what the platform is capable of. Send us your feedback, please, after this webinar. Share ideas, about what else we can do, or how you manage to create, to use some of these features today creatively, so that we can share with the rest of the Learnworlds community this experience. We learn from you every day. We apply these learnings in the platform, but we also share through our academy and all through our resources, share these learnings back to you so that you can create the best possible version of your online school as soon as possible. That's it, people. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Brett. Thanks, Elisa.
Guys.
Thanks, George. Thanks to the amazing team that helped prepare all these scenarios, and to our customer support team who's here to help everybody. Keep an eye on your email for the presentation and for the recording, and hopefully see you one of our next webinars. And keep so we'll be around to help you create.
I think, Pano, we have another one next week.
Yes, we have actually we have a webinar next week, the 1st of August, where we'll be talking about how we can use generative AI with ChatGPT within a business online school. And come join us and see how you can use this. This is a feature that will be coming in your Learnworlds school in the next few weeks. I know that there's amazing enthusiasm around this upcoming release. So join us there for this next webinar. You can just go over to our website and sign up. It's the top link that you will see on our website. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe. See you around.
Thanks.
Bye.